there you are, a literary legend in your own bedroom, and you publish Decline and Fall Thread, or Bright Light's Big City, and overnight your front page news. Like a lucky castaway, your bottle washes up on a sympathetic shore. Equally, a first novel may take years before it's appreciated. Meanwhile, you struggle on through that grimmest of literary career prescriptions, much respected, little read. Soldier's Pay, The Dream Life of Balto Snell, illustrious company, but who paid the rent? Along the banks of the Grand Canal at Ballyfermot, Neville Thompson's hometown. For many writers, leaving home is vital. Absence makes the imagination grow keener. Thompson grew up in Ballyfermot, but he didn't begin to write about the town. Didn't know he wanted to write at all, until long after he had left home.
I always wrote. I wrote from a very early age. I think it was about 4 or 5. As soon as I started, making up silly little rhymes and putting them down, just it kept on going from there. And I've loved it ever since. Started off with poetry, then into the short stories, and eventually came to the stage where I'm at now, which is like trying to get novelty. So when I came to writing the book, whereas it's not particularly about Ballyfermot, I said it in Ballyfermot because I grew up there. And I was aware of the fact that if I had wrote it about anywhere else, that someone could have come to me just the same way as Jean gives out about the people she reads and say oh well, that wasn't in there, that shop was 3 doors further down. So I said it in Ballyfermot where I knew everything, that because it was where I had grown up and where I came from, and I knew what was happening in the 60s and 70s. And throughout the book, Jean has been a great influence on me on the smaller aspects that the reader would key in on. John would be approximately a person my age, growing up at the same time as what I grew up in. And at the time, there weren't an awful lot of choices made available to people in Ballyfermot. I know that when I went to do the Leaving Cert, I was one of the first classes to do the Leaving Cert in Ballyfermot. So there was only about 20 of us actually at that time done the Leaving Cert. So you hadn't even got that many going forward for jobs, that the Leaving Cert was needed for, the police and things like that. There weren't that many people that were actually in a position to do them jobs. But as I grew up and as I applied for jobs, I found that people were actually against me, because of where I came from and the fact that I was from Ballyfermot. On many occasions, I actually feel that I lost jobs because of my address. At 15 years of age, we all went down by the river or to our local park, and we all went off with the girl of our choice or the boy of our choice, whatever it is, and had a relationship. And I've just written the story the way that it actually happened. What I'd be particularly happy about, where I can stand tall, is the fact that I come from the area. So I'm not going to run down people because I love those people. I think that they're the best people in the world. And I'm not going to run them down. But what I am doing is telling the story from their point of view.
Now living in Castle Pollard, County Westmeath, Thompson's first novel is at once a journey home and a marking of the distance he has travelled.
Jackie Look Jones is a contemporary love story, primarily a temporary love story. It tells the tale of John McCoy, who comes from Ballyfermot, and he's growing up in an environment where he doesn't feel that there's any chance of never getting a job or any way forward other than crime. So he decides that if he's going to be a criminal, he's going to be the best in Dublin at least. So he meets with Jackie, and Jackie Clark is just an ordinary girl who falls in love with the best looking guy in her eyes in the locality. And it tells the tale then of him going into his life of crime, and Jackie really putting up with it and how she deals with it going through the whole life. What I've tried to do in the book is make it that he's not a typecast criminal. I think we all have too many ideas about somebody comes from a certain area and will act a certain way, and if they're a criminal, they'll beat up grannies and they'll beat their wife and they'll beat anybody who they see. So what I've tried to do is show the other side of people who live in that environment. He's actually just chosen a life of crime. In the same way that you or I would choose our jobs, he has chosen to be a criminal. People are shocked by the violence in the book. There's no getting away from that. But violence, it's not like what we see on the TV. It's not like the Tom and Jerry scenario that you run on with a steamroller and you get up and you're in the next scene. If you're hit in real life, it hurts. And when people repeatedly hit you, you end up in hospital or you end up dead, one or the other. It's a fact of life. And there's no point in me trying to water that down even one iota on it, that kind of way.
Well, what happened in the beginning was that Neville did what quite a lot of our authors do. He sent us an unsolicited manuscript, and in get back and to rewrite. Well, not exactly rewrite, but to write a similar sort of book that is character dominated. And he sent that to me.
The first time I met Kate Cruz online, she frightened the life out of me because I heard so much about this woman that I thought she was going to be about 10 foot and like eat the head off me the minute I walked in. She's actually quite a nice woman. And what she does is, I think as an editor, her strong point is the fact that she doesn't feel that she has to change things. If things are right, she'll just leave them and let you get on with it. So she's an extraordinary woman in the sense that she's given me so much confidence with my writing. I think when I was going to her, if she had told me I had to change 300 pages, I would have changed 300 pages. Nowadays I'm more confident to walk in and say, well, this is how I feel and explain it. So to give you, I think the whole process of writing is about confidence. And Kate Cruz O'Brien makes all of her writers lose confidence about their work.
I work quite closely with authors. I like to. If I'm editing something, I will mark it, and then the author will come to my home and we will sit down, usually at my kitchen table, and sit, and I will explain what I've done. And they will say, you can't do that, and I will say, well, this is why I did that. And we usually negotiate, and usually we agree.
How I write a book is I do it on dictaphone and just talk into it, and then I give it to Jean, and Jean types it up for me. So when Jean was typing it up, she'd come back to me and say, well, I don't think that like a girl would say this or say that, and we walked around it.
I think her role will be more a collaborator, that they created this book together, and that she is the female voice in his head, as it were. I would have been more the impartial outsider, well, not all that impartial, but I would have been the outsider, on the more technical side. But also you have to remember that Neville did not need an awful lot of editing. As he says himself, I have the book in my head. And when Neville says that, he's right. So my task was to facilitate. And I would say that Jean's task was to inspire.
Sometimes I was involved, like there would be certain scenes where Jackie would be doing very women things, like female things, and I was more or less given a free hand to go with it. Like, Neville would do the bass line, and then he would say, well, what happens, what does a woman think, or whatever, and so he would give me a free hand to kind of do bits and pieces like that. So I did have some of the input into her more tragic moments, and like her clothes and things like that. I was advisory here as well.
There's something very attractive about this writing. It's very accessible, it's very intelligent, it's very clear. And that's rare. And some writers like to complicate things, whereas Neville makes them simple. Anyone can understand it, but that doesn't mean it's not very subtle and very intelligent.
I was aware of the fact that like in working class areas, especially Ballyfermot, that there are no bookshops. So I had to try to get some kind of a name that the people from these areas, when they're walking by, can look and say, well, that looks like a book about us, and we'll take that and run with it and try to read it. This kind of thing. I would like to think that I'll be able to reach some people that don't normally pick up a book and read it. And from the feedback that I've got of people that I've met in the street and things like that, there are a certain amount of people who have never bought a book in like literally their lifetime have gone out and bought this book on this trend of where it's coming from, and the fact that I am a working class person writing about a working class environment. But possibly, from my knowledge, the first one that's come out of any friend anyway. What I would find without like running any areas down, I think I can talk a little bit more freely, and like probably the language is a little bit more coarse than in other people who are writing working class stories, because I actually come from the areas myself, that kind of. And because I come from the areas, I can turn around and I can say, well, I believe that this is our language, and like we use it, so why should we hide it? Why should we try to lessen it? The fact that we're actually from this area, this is the way we talk when we get annoyed, we curse.
It was the uniqueness of this particular book, not the market considerations that drove me. I mean, it's very difficult to describe how I work, but you have a kind of feeling. I know this is going to work. Lots of people are going to want to read it and love it the way I do. And it's a sort of gut instinct. And it's not a sort of particularly calculated, the market wants blah, or the market wants blah. It's just, I just have a feeling about this one. And usually, in a lot of cases, I've been lucky. My feelings have been right.